Okay, so this is a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, I think you should click away now. But basically, I've been looking at most of the reviews online, and everyone seems to be just completely loving this film, like saying like, ah, how this film saves Star Wars. So I just wanted to make a review for the rest of us who might think that this film is probably not the best film ever, or even like a very good film. I mean, don't get me wrong. For me, I think this is at least a 7 or a 7.5 out of 10 in terms of it being an action film. It's actually very fun if you just look at it as like a standalone film. The action is like there's no slow moment. There's just action throughout the whole film. Actually, surprisingly, loads of action. I mean, the budget on this film must be quite big, but that's not surprising. I mean, Star Wars, right? But in terms of what it could have been, I'm a little bit, quite a bit disappointed actually, to be honest, because, I mean, okay, first of all, they had 30 years to come up with a new story, okay? A new bleeping story. And what we end up with, is basically a reboot. I mean, really? The Death Star again? For the third time? What the hell, man? I mean, come on, dude. When they did it for a second time, I'm sure they already got like quite a bit of stick. When they did it in episode 6, people were saying, oh, really? Again? They built another Death Star with like a little reactor you can just shoot and just blow the whole planet up? Well, guess what? They did it again for the third bloody time. I mean, wouldn't they have learned? I mean, just like a whole planet and like one little spot where you can just keep, shooting at it and yeah, it blows up. I mean, when they were making this film, didn't they think like, our audience might recognize these final action sequence from the previous sequels. But never mind, we'll just do it again. And it's not just that, it's actually the whole film borrows quite heavily. Well, I would say actually more like copy heavily from the old Star Wars film. I mean, once again, a droid carrying vital information is dropped into a desert planet where they meet with our hero who has been left there by his unknown parents, her unknown parents, who has the Force, or she's a Jedi, and basically adventures ensue. And pretty much the sequence are pretty much very similar to the previous films. I mean, going out to find the old ally in the old film. It's like they're going off to rescue Princess Leia and stuff like that, with Obi-Wan Kenobi. And this one is like Han Solo is like the Obi-Wan character, and then he gets killed at the end while they're trying to blow up the Death Star. It's very similar stuff. So, I mean, that's one thing that's really disappointed me, because, I mean, I'm glad that they didn't do another prequel, because I hate prequels. I mean, it's like watching a film when you already know the ending. And I'm very glad they're not doing a reboot, because, I mean, why reboot a classic again? But then, this is basically a reboot. I mean, let's be honest. They should have called it Star Wars The Reboot, or Star Wars The Force Awakens / The Reboot. I mean... But then, I'm not that surprised, because when I looked at the director, I was like, oh, wait a minute, it's J.J. Abrams. It sounds pretty familiar. And then I was like, oh, it's that guy who did Star Trek. Now, I don't want to blame him for this storyline, which I didn't like, but I mean, loads of people love it and didn't mind the thing. But for me, I'm obviously, you can tell that I don't like it very much. So, but I don't want to blame J.J. Abrams, because I don't know who wrote it. Maybe he's just the director. But I mean, if he actually was involved in the story, which I'm pretty sure he might be a part of it, then I wouldn't be surprised. Because in the Star Trek one, he basically rebooted the Wrath of Khan and just copied all the best bits and swapped little things around a little bit. And he's done it again here. Now, okay, that's the main problem I had with the film. And obviously there are a number of other problems that I had, which are one of them being the villain, really. I mean, in the old one, they had obviously Darth Vader, one of probably the greatest villain of all time. He's just a complete badass. Well, in this one, we got like, an annoying punk kid trying to be Vader, but then failing completely and just throwing tantrums all the time and just getting his ass kicked left and right, and just he's trying to be a badass, but obviously he's just complete loser, pretty much, basically. I was actually hoping that they would do the whole film without actually showing his face, like maybe have a scene when he was like taking off the helmet, but you would see it from behind and just never revealing the face of the actor, because I understand it's very difficult to cast an actor with that amount of presence, and just you look at him, it's like, oh, respect, now he's a badass. But the guy they cast, it's just like I think they're purposely going for the whiny, annoying punk kid kind of vibe, which they completely succeed. But then, I mean, that's not the kind of villain I want. I want someone who's like, wow, you love to hate. You're like, yeah, he's bad. He knows it, and he's just, going around just taking no prisoners, just cutting down people left and right without any effort, like deflecting blaster shots, which kind of for the first introduction scene, he was like that, and just like stopping blasters mid-air and stuff. But then as the film goes by, you start to see that he's actually just a Vader wannabe, basically, and basically he's not that powerful at all. And it's just like, now I don't really want to follow his story anymore, because he's basically just got beaten by like a couple of kids who had no training, no fighting training, no experience, and he has been training his whole life and still can barely beat some of them. Like the John Bottega character, I think, the Stormtroopers. Basically, he's not a Jedi, right? He hasn't got any force. He's never used a lightsaber before. But even at the end, when they were like having their little lightsaber fight, he was still like struggling to beat him, basically. I mean, I know he was like a little bit injured, but still, I mean, come on, man. I mean, he was even not only did he struggle to beat the guy, but he actually got injured while trying to do it. John Bottega actually like took a few good swipe at him and like injured him in the shoulder, I think, which is just like, really? I mean, this is the first film and already you're like losing so badly. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, there's the girl character who's just completely on God mode, cheat code, hacker level. She's basically just, you can do whatever she wants. She has all the power. She can fight. She has the force. She can fly planes, knows engineering. Just basically, I mean, she's already basically the ultimate fighter. I mean, there's no need to do any more training. It's like when the Kylo Ren guy was saying like, hey, you have the force. Why don't you let me show you how to use it? And it's like, why bother, man? She's just kicked your ass effortlessly without any training whatsoever. Why would she want to be your student? Maybe you should be her student, I mean, when you have a character that's so OP, it's just not that fun anymore. It's like, okay, so what's the point? I mean, she can just, she's just born with it. She doesn't have to do anything. I mean, some people will probably be saying like, oh, she's probably like the daughter of some really powerful Jedi, maybe probably Luke's daughter, that's why, and Vader's granddaughter, so he has all this power. But even then, I mean, if you remember the old one, Luke Skywalker, he had to had loads of training before he was any good. I mean, Obi-Wan had to train him in the beginning, and even in the first movie, he didn't even attempt to fight Vader. And then in the second movie, after some training, he faced Vader, got completely annihilated, just swiped aside, and then went back for more training. And then finally, in the third film, he finally put up like a decent fight, and then basically beat Vader in the end when he was like really angry, channeling the dark side of the Force. But I mean, in normal circumstance, he would probably be like evenly matched with Vader at most. So, and even Anakin, Vader himself, if you remember when he was young, I mean, he was good, but in the first few films when he was going up against like Count Dooku and stuff, he was faring quite well, but he still lost. It wasn't until like the third film when he was like, finally developed his powers. But this girl character, she's just going around like, okay, never used the Force before in my life, suddenly, oh, I can just mind control people out of nowhere. and then suddenly he can do like force pull, like pull the saber towards her, lightsaber towards her, and then that's definitely loads of cheesy scene in this film. I mean, really, like she's fighting him with the lightsaber, and suddenly she's like, "Oh yeah, that woman told me to close my eyes and think of the light or whatever. The light will guide you." And suddenly, for some reason, she say like, "Oh yeah, the Force," and then she closed her eyes for like, I don't know, 30 seconds, just chilling there, while Kylo Ren is just like staring, trying with all his might to force the lightsaber into her face, and she's just like chilling. This Vader wannabe, he's not gonna touch me. And then once he opened her eyes again, she just completely kicked his ass. So that was pretty much that. And that kind of leads me on to another point about the film, which is the Han Solo send-off, basically. I mean, if you've seen the film by now, you know that Han Solo dies. And basically in this film, I felt he was not given like a kind of proper send-off. In most of the scene he was in, he was like the lesser of the two. He was in quite a lot of film with the OP girl. I think I'll just call her the OP girl from now on. And basically, if you think of Han Solo, right, you think of two things. Well, three things: Han Solo, Chewbacca, and the Millennium Falcon, right? So the Millennium Falcon is basically like his arm and legs. It's just like an old friend. And in loads of scenes in this film, basically the girl knows the Millennium Falcon way better than he does and can fly it way better than he does. I mean, in most of the scene, he's like, "Oh shit, how do I do this? I don't know." And the girl's like, "Hey, just do it here." And the Millennium Falcon is like breaking down. How do I fix this? And the girl is just like, "Oh yeah, it's done. Easy peasy." And it's like, really? I mean, I was hoping for a scene where it's like, he comes back to the Millennium Falcon. Maybe they have to like fly with the Empire, and then he's like, "Okay, now let me show you how to fly this thing." And it's like show her how to really fly the Millennium Falcon. But no, apparently he's just like useless now. It's just like an old man, quite like going around running away from his like debt collectors and just getting rescued by the girl all the time. Even Chewbacca, I mean, he's just like getting shot in this one, getting injured all the time, and it's like getting captured. It's like, I mean, if this wasn't going to be Han Solo's last film, then I understand, because you can always have like a redemption, like a comeback scene, or like other scene where he's the hero. But in this one, I mean, there wasn't any scene where he was like, showing like, hey, the old man still got it. He's basically he's the myth. He's the myth in Star Wars. He's like a legendary status. As he should be like Michael Jordan. Like Luke, Leia, Han Solo, and a few of these guys. They're legends. They should be like Michael Jordan level. They should have used them like way more sparingly if they're not going to like elevate him to be the main character or the main man. I mean, they should just have like character talk about him the whole film. Maybe not talk about him in the whole film in that way, but he should be like a legend that you like rarely see. And then the few scenes that they use him in, they should have just made it like really impactful and show like, he's on another level to all the other people. Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia, they should be like on another level, like Yoda. In Yoda in the prequel, he rarely fights, but every time, just a few brief moments that he show his true power, you're like, yeah, yeah, go Yoda, you're the man. When this one is just like, come on, man, Han Solo, step it up a bit. This girl is really showing you up here. Now, of course, there are loads of other little things that kind of annoy me a bit, but probably wouldn't go into any more details here, or basically I can't really think of it off the top of my head, and the review will get too long anyway. But basically, as I said, I don't think this was like a terrible film or anything. I gave it, 7.5 out of 10. It's like much better than Jurassic World, in my opinion. It's an okay film, but you're just disappointed with some of the storyline that, it just could have been so much better. Now, I'll just talk a bit about the stuff that I like, I guess. So the one thing I like is the introduction of the Millennium Falcon. The scene when they're running away. Like, why don't take that chip? Oh, that's one's the junk. That one's junk. And then we were like, oh, we didn't see what they were talking about. And then when the other chip gets blown up, it's like, okay, the junk would do. And then you turn around, you see, geez, that's the Millennium Falcon, man. That's so cool. Or the way they introduced the main bad guy, the Voldemort guy. I don't know what his name is. I think it's like Snape or Snock or whatever. Who cares? Snow? I don't know. But basically, Voldemort look-alike, or maybe he just came out of retirement because Harry Potter is finished now and he needs a job. But at first I was like, whoa, he's really powerful. It looks really cool the way he's like, 30 foot tall. But then I started thinking like, well, is he a new alien species that is like 30 feet tall? And then I realized, oh, it's a hologram. It's like, wow, cool. That's a really good idea, so give them props for that one. Oh yeah, actually, now talking about the main villain, about character design, just brings me back to another thing, which one of the many things that annoys me again is the casting of the X-Wing pilots. It just seems like they just have to copy the original down to every single detail. Really? It seems like they just went back and looked at the original film and look at the type of pilots they had, in the original X-Wing, and it's like, okay, we're going to have the exact same type of characters in our X-Wing pilot. They have that weird alien guy that was flying with Han Solo's friend. I don't remember, Lando Calrissian, I think. I probably pronounced it completely wrong, but in the episode 6 when they're doing the Death Star run, his co-pilot is that type of alien, and also like the kind of like the woman pilot and the guy who's a bit larger, who's like, come on, man. The films back then, I understand when the first few Star Wars came out, they probably didn't have the budget to go out and properly cast, really like fighter pilot looking type or fitness level. And also back in those days, things were less serious, people were more accepting. But in these days, really, how did he get past the fitness check? Or the girl whose helmet is basically almost way too big for her head and it's just like falling down, covering her face. It's I know, once you started copying too much detail, it just becomes, basically just do a copy for scene by scene. Then it just takes me out a little bit. So yeah, anyway, I just wanted to get these points off my chest. I'm sure there's a lot more I could have gone into and nitpick and just complain about, but I think I've done probably the main point to just get it off my chest to people out there. If you guys who didn't think this film was the greatest ever or a very, very good film, if you have any other points you want to add, just feel free to let me know. I'm sure I missed lots of points that people like us might think is a negative. For those of you who love this film and didn't mind any of the plot points, I see loads of reviewers saying like, oh, they didn't mind at all that they do the Death Star run for the third time, copying the exact same plot or whatever, and that's fine. But this is probably not the review you're looking for then, or the discussion video you're looking for. So I'm sure you can go and find loads of other ones which just keeps going on and on about how amazing this film is, that it has heart and soul or whatever. Well, yeah, that's obviously fine. That's your opinion. For me, it's just like a inferior villain, a copy, a reboot, and just an okay action film, basically. Let's be honest. That's what I feel. An okay action film, which is, well, it's a good action film, which wasted a potential to be an amazing film. Okay, so I probably just, yeah, that's just my thought on it. Well, thanks very much for listening this long, if you have. And, well, let me know what you think.